Please join me in welcoming our Governor, Bill Haslam.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you. Thank you. That was so nice, I had to check for a second and make certain that he was going to say Bill Haslam at the end. I say that because I've had an experience where you thought maybe it was about you and then you found out that it wasn't. One of the things I do as governor is I travel around the country and the world selling Tennessee, recruiting businesses to come here. And one time I was in Asia and we were flying from Seoul, Korea to Hangzhou, China to recruit a company. And the flight was late and our most important meeting was the first one. And I knew if we didn't hurry, we were going to be late. This particular flight, my wife Chrissy is with me. So as we land in Hangzhou, I say, quick, get your stuff out of the overhead bin. We need to hurry. Now, I'll confess a little something. I'm about to leave being governor, so I can tell all the secrets now. When you travel as governor, somehow you get treated a little different. Your boarding number is always 1. You're always the first to get off the plane. And usually when you get off the plane, there's somebody to meet you. There's a state trooper from that state or whatever who whisks you away before you even, most folks are even out of their seat. And you get treated differently, but for some reason in China, they don't normally think being the governor of Tennessee is a really big deal. And so that doesn't happen. But as we're getting out of our seats, I'm saying, hurry, we're late, and we're getting stuff out of the overhead bins. And we look kind of like you do when you've been traveling for a while, and we kind of straggle off, and we're the first ones to get to the door. And as we do, Chrissy looks out the window and she goes, what is all that about? I said, what are you talking about? She goes, all that. And I look out there and there's a band and a large military contingent. And I go, I don't know. But by the way, I should have told you, this is one of those airplanes where you exit from the plane straight onto the tarmac. And so I don't know, but hurry. And so we grab our stuff and we get to the door of the plane, and all of a sudden the band starts playing music. As we walk down, the whole military contingent comes to attention in full salute. And then we get to the bottom, and there's a guy with a bouquet of roses that he gives Chrissy that she later tells me is more roses than I have ever given her cumulative lifetime. And puts in her hands. They have this ceremony and all this happens. Then all of a sudden we're in the back of a limousine and we're whisked away. And we're looking at each other like, what's going on? And finally, I said to our host, I said, excuse me, but can you tell me what's happening? And he said, well, do you want an honest answer? And I said, yes. He goes, well, next week we are hosting the G8 summit of the largest 8 industrial nations. And the heads of state for all those countries will be here, and we were practicing. So, Chancellor, I'm hoping you weren't just practicing. Hey, it is an incredible honor for me to be here. My life story, I'm not a UTK graduate, but my life story is inextricably wrapped up in this university and this campus. 70 years ago this fall, my dad, who was the very first in his family to ever go to college. By the way, do we have any graduates? If you're the first in your family to go to college, would you stand up if you're the first graduate in your family? I'm thinking there's some out there. That is, so 70 years ago, my dad was in the shoes some of you were in 4 years ago or however long ago you came to the campus. He literally took a Greyhound bus from St. Petersburg to Florida to come here. He only got to go because he got a football scholarship. But the trajectory of his life and my life and so many others was changed because he got to come to school here. And so it's a particular honor to get to give this address. 8 years ago, I was asked to speak at this. At the time, I was a newly elected governor, but I wasn't even in office. Since that time, I've given scores of commencement addresses at universities, community colleges, technical schools, and I have learned one thing, and this is my moment of assurance to all of you. When I got ready to give the very first one, I called the president of the school that I was speaking at and said, what would you like me to talk about? And he said, do you remember what the commencement speaker spoke about at your graduation? I said, no. He goes, do you remember who spoke at your graduation? I said, no. He goes, they won't either. Just be really short. I get it. Nobody here is here to hear me. I get it. But I do want to at least pass on a little few, I won't even call it advice, I'll call it suggestions. Hannah Brown, I think it is, who got up here to sing. And Hannah, you did an incredible job wherever you are. That was awesome. But like many of you, on the back of her cap, I get a kick out of walking in from the back and seeing what everybody has on their cap. But hers said, "For you." And Hannah, I have no idea who the "for you" is, but I hope all of you have this sense of debt, a debt of gratitude to all the people that are helping you sit here. And I want to maybe expand your picture of that. Expand it to include the citizens of Tennessee who help pay for your education and help fund the buildings and the operational costs, to incredible faculty who've decided this is what my life is worth. I'm going to give my life to teach folks, to parents and grandparents and other folks who have sacrificed so that you could be right here. And so the question is, what do you do with that debt of gratitude? And I have a suggestion. I hope you in some way pay back this wonderful gift of public education by staying involved in public education yourself. You know, we have a lot of challenges in this country, a lot of big ones. Most of them, if you ask me what the fundamental answer to those problems is, would come in the form of public education. This isn't about private versus public education. I went to private school myself. It isn't about that. But most of our K-12 students and most of our high school and most of our higher ed students are going to go to our great public institutions. I would hope that you would find some way to stay involved. Stay involved in the University of Tennessee with a sense of loyalty and love for this place, but stay involved maybe back in your home. Maybe you'll run for school board someday. Maybe you'll help an educational advocacy group. But I know this, one of the big problems in our country today, forget your politics for a minute, okay, is income inequality. It just is. That's what the data shows. I hope you've all learned to be data-driven while you're in school. So the question is, what are we going to do about it? I think the fundamental hope for addressing that situation lies in access to public high-quality education. And I hope somewhere along the way you find your way to be a part of solving that puzzle to provide great public education to everyone, regardless of income, zip code, background, or anything else. I hope you'll find your way to play a role in that. So that's my first suggestion, is how do you repay this debt that you have to all the folks who have helped you, and I hope you'll find a way to be involved in public education. The second thing is I hope you'll really, truly will become a citizen of this country. Now, obviously, most of you are citizens, but I'm talking about a different kind of citizen. I don't have to tell anybody in this great auditorium that our country is divided. You can see that everywhere. And elections national elections are almost always really close. Any issue you look at is we're divided. The problem is that we're divided and we're mad about it. I can't believe the other side thinks the way they do. I'm going to quote one of the University of Tennessee's, I think, most significant graduates of all time, a man named Howard Baker. Howard Baker went to undergrad in law school here, became a United States Senator, Majority Leader of the U.S. Senate, became our ambassador to Japan, was Chief of Staff to the President of the United States. It's who the Baker Center of Public Policy here on campus is named after. And Senator Baker had a saying. He always said, always remember the other fella might be right. In today's world where you can choose how you get your news, right? You can decide which cable channel you watch, and we usually watch the one that tells us what we already think. You can decide where to go get your news on the internet, and you can go to those sites that think like you do. But let me just suggest that this tendency toward confirmation bias is not good for any of us. We should all go to those places and listen to voices that might not agree with us. Because my experience after being a mayor for 7 years and a governor for 8 years is the issues are a lot more complex than people think. Some things that seem really simple from the outside are hard. Oliver Wendell Holmes, one of our country's greatest jurists, said this. He said, I wouldn't give a fig for the simplicity this side of complexity, but I would give the whole world for the simplicity on the other side of complexity. I hope that part of what you see in becoming a great citizen of this country is to work hard through the complex issues that challenge us, looking for a clear answer, but not looking for the simple answer on this side of the complexity. If you do that, your role as a citizen in our country will be a huge one. And the third thing I want to suggest is this, and final, people like that when you tell them this is the last, is how you should look at yourself. You know, C.S. Lewis said, humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. That's pretty good. I'm not asking you to think less of yourself. I'm asking you to think of yourself less. Now, for a lot of folks, they don't like that. You read like, you need to go be your best self and live your best life and do you. But I would suggest to you that's not how it works. That the happiest, most content people I know are people who have realized that the story is not about them. That there's something bigger going on than just your story. And the most content people I know are the people who have figured out how to make their story part of this bigger story going on and don't think that the world revolves around them. You know, I've decided there's two kinds of people in the world. There's folks who walk into an event and say, here I am. And there's people who walk into an event and say, there you are. I hope you'll be a there you are person for your entire life. Because life has a way of reminding you of that when you think it might not. You know, as governor, people treat you differently. Your jokes are funnier. People stand up when you come in a room. You get attention. You know, you have a trooper driving you around. It's all. By the way, like I said, I'm losing all that in about 36 days. This is the only job when you lose your job, you lose your house and your car and a lot of other things. But you learn really quickly that people treat you differently, and you kind of start to get used to that. And I'd been in office about 3 years, and I saw a woman with like an 8-year-old boy, and she was whispering in his ear and pointing at me. And so I thought, oh, she's explaining to him that that's the governor of Tennessee and why that's such a big deal. And I can see him whispering. And then finally she fumbles in her purse, pulls out, I think it's like a church bulletin and a pen, and pushes this 9-year-old boy toward me. And I can see that she said, go ask for his autograph. And so I decided I'm going to make this moment memorable, that this 9-year-old is going to remember this moment the rest of his life. And so as he gets close, about as far as the flowers are in front of me, I decided to get down on one knee so I can look him in the eye. And the rest of his life, he'll remember, that's the day I met the governor of Tennessee. And I get down, and he gets about as close as the edge of the stage. I reach out for the pen and paper, and he walks right past me to Darrell Waltrip, the race car driver, who is standing behind me. And then I have the issue of I'm fairly mature adult, kneeling in the middle of the floor for no apparent reason and trying to figure out what to do about it. So life can either remind you of the beauty of humility that way, or you can choose it for yourself and choose the joy of living a life that's not about you, but about the bigger story that's going on. Congratulations. I have 36 more days to say that on behalf of 6.6 million Tennesseans, we are thrilled for your accomplishment. This is a wonderful university. Being the flagship campus of a state's land-grant university makes for this to be an incredible institution. Thank you, congratulations, and we look forward to seeing what comes next. Thanks so much.